Very sad to see so much of Ron's discussion spent beating up on procedures instead of the evidence. We're beating up on the procedures that lead to collecting the evidence. So I don't know what that person was saying, but obviously he's not looking at this thing with a clear lens, because if there was something good to talk about here as it pertains to the investigation of police officer John O'Keefe from the Boston Police Department, we would be the first to be sitting here cheering them on. But there's nothing to cheer on about anything that happened in this particular case.
That's right. And if you don't see that they mishandled that evidence, and the evidence is crucial to the investigation, and if you can't see how they mishandled that evidence, and now that evidence can't be trusted. First of all, the way they handled this here.
That text ends as they have to recuse themselves.
Meaning Canton has to recuse itself also, correct?
That was my understanding.
So by 11 p.m. on January 29th, 2022, there was no question in your mind, Trooper Proctor, that the Canton Police Department was recused from this investigation in all particulars, correct?
That they had taken a step back from participating, yes.
Right. Well, there's one way to put it. They've taken a step back from participating. Another way to put it is they recused themselves completely, correct?
Correct.
They were not going to be, at least in your mind, they were not to be involved in any way, just like Boston PD was not to be involved in any way. Is that right?
Objection.
Is that what you were thinking?
It was my understanding they were not going to be involved.
But I assume you guys are out to make it cut and dry since it involves cops, correct?
Yes.
And Bird writes, something stinks, correct?
Correct.
And then Trooper Proctor, you responded, yeah, but there will be some serious charges brought on the girl. Isn't that right?
That's right.
So in that text exchange, you were saying, yeah, we're out to make it cut and dry, correct?
No.
You didn't write, yeah, we're going to follow the evidence wherever it takes us. You didn't, did you?
I did not write that.
You didn't write, yeah, we're going to make sure that we investigate this thing fully and thoroughly before making any decisions. You didn't say that, did you?
I did not.
You wrote, yeah, but there will be some serious charges brought on the girl. Isn't that right?
Correct.
And the reason you wrote that is because you knew, as the text above it says, this has to be cut and dry because it involves cops, right?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that. Is that the reason you wrote it?
No, Your Honor.
And then you indicated, we're going to put serious charges on the girl. Who did you mean by the girl, by the way?
The defendant.
Karen Reed?
Yes, sir.
So the way that you were going to make it cut and dry, pretty simple. Just pin it on the girl, right?
Objection.
Is that right?
Absolutely not. Follow the facts and the evidence from that day on the 29th, and everything led to Miss Reed hitting Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
But that wasn't the question that you were answering, was it? We're going to follow the evidence and make sure we do this thoroughly. The question you were answering was, I assume you guys, Trooper Proctor and your team, are going to, quote, make it cut and dry since it involves cops, meaning Brian Albert, correct?
Incorrect. Doesn't matter to me if the homeowner's a cop, if the victim's a police officer. Myself and everyone in my office investigated this case that Saturday, had an overwhelming amount of evidence that Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe. So it didn't matter to us what their occupation was.
We'll see. Let's keep reading, shall we?
The way they handled this here, the medical examiner didn't have a manner of death. There's no chain of custody for any of the evidence. The evidence was not properly documented. There was no sketch, no measurements of most of the pieces of evidence that were collected, and it would have never had a trial. So from the get-go, if you can't call balls and strikes like Ron and I are doing here and call out our fellow members in blue when they fuck up, then you're biased.
I could only imagine what internal affairs at BPD are trying to get out there. Correct?
Correct.
Meaning, this person, 5051, was opining, at least in your mind, you interpreted that as being Boston police are going to have a lot to answer for given the fact that another Boston police officer was found dead on that officer's lawn. Correct?
Objection.
What were you thinking?
Can't speak to the mindset to that comment. I wasn't sure how to interpret that one.
All right, next question, Mr. Jackson.
Then 5051 changes gears and he writes, she hot at least? correct?
Yes.
And what was your response to that?
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt.
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt. That's what you wrote, correct?
Correct.
16 hours into this investigation,
Yes.
into your objective and unbiased, thorough investigation, correct?
Correct.
And while on the stand this year for the retrial, Sergeant Yuri Buchanan, who was Trooper Proctor's boss, read some of those disturbing text messages.
Funny, I am going through his client's phone.
Is that your comment?
No, it is not.
Okay, next.
It appears to be the same person because of the way that the extraction happens, and it says no nudes so far. Again, I believe it's the same person because all of these are identified as sent. It says, I hate that man. I truly hate him.
Do you have any belief that's Michael Proctor who was writing these?
Yes, I believe that is.
What I meant by that was
Did you or did you not have all accounts in your investigation?
the accounts we had was Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle, discovered taillight pieces at the scene. Those are the accounts we had.
The accounts
And then
you
some.
had, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The accounts you had, Trooper Proctor, were from two people named McCabe and one named Albert, who happened to be the homeowner and a Boston cop. Those are the accounts from percipient witnesses that you had, correct?
There was another additional witness that we had, investigators had interviewed, Miss Roberts as well.
And from all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. That was your decision 16 hours into the investigation, correct?
Yes.
And the other decision that you made and the other determination you came to was my client, Karen Reed, was a whack job cunt, right?
Yes.
I believe that is.
So again, to all of the retired and active law enforcement members of the service that watch this, the good guys get this. The good guys and girls get this. The bad guys, the ones that aren't down with what these clowns were doing that we're playing on the screen here, these clowns, this guy, if you're okay with what this guy and his whole team did here and the Canton Police Department, then you are a piece of shit. And I'll say that all day, every day, to your face, here on our live stream, anywhere, anytime, any day.
What did you say in response to, she's hot at least? Or she hot at least, question mark?
So following that text, I responded, yeah, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
Yeah, she's a babe. Who's the she?
Miss Reed.
Weird Fall River accent, though. You talking about her, the way she talks?
The accent.
And no ass. Now you're talking about her body, her physique, correct?
Yes.
You think that's appropriate?
Absolutely not.
Then Bird chimes in with a little comedy. Not newsworthy then, correct?
Correct.
In other words, well, if she didn't have an ass, nothing to see here, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
And then 5051 says, oh, she's skating, right?
Correct.
And what did you write after that?
My response was 0 chance she skated.
And then what did you write?
She's fucked.
0 chance she skates. She's fucked, right?
Correct.
You decided on the 29th of January, 17 hours into this investigation, you decided individually, Trooper Proctor, you're not only going to put it on the girl, you decided you're going to make sure this is cut and dried, and the way you're going to do it is to make sure that she's fucked. That's what you were saying.
Objection.
All right, so that's sustained. You can, the content's fine. You have to ask it differently.
17 hours into this investigation, Trooper Proctor, you made the decision that you were going to put it on Miss Reed, didn't you? Put the case on Miss Reed. She was going to catch the case, correct?
No, absolutely not.
What did you mean then when you said she's fucked?
After the day's investigation with multiple troopers conducting multiple tasks, debriefing at Canton PD amongst detectives in my office, we went through the overwhelming amount of evidence against Miss Reed that she struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle. That's what I meant by that comment.
What you meant by that comment, Trooper Proctor, was you were going to make sure, because 5051 had said she's going to skate. She's skating. When you said 0 chance she skates, she's fucked, what you meant was, I'm going to make sure, I am going to make sure Ms. Reed doesn't skate. She's fucked. That's what you meant, isn't it?
Objection.
Part of me believes they should have called Proctor to the stand and let him owe up to it. Let him take the heat. Let him explain all the bad things he did and how he lost a coveted job with the state police. And then the jury could see exactly what kind of person he is, but at least they get that out of the way. But I wonder if the jury gets back there and says, you know, why didn't we hear from Proctor? Why didn't we get to see him on the stand?
I think the defense has no choice but to call Proctor, and I think they should call Proctor because he has been the crux of their defense the whole time. I mean, when you bring his name up prominently in your opening statement and say that, you know, he's the reason for all of this, or one of the main reasons, the Achilles, that was the name was the word given, I think they should. And then they can really muddy the waters that way. I also agree with Randolph. Why didn't the state bring him up? And should have brought him up at the very beginning. You know, look, mea culpa. Let him just put it all out there so you're not hiding anything. Because if you're hiding something, the jury will see that. Now, if the defense has to bring him up, and he's going to have to read each and every text message that he said derogatory about Karen Reed, the women on the trial, and the jury especially, are not going to look favorably towards that.
And then Bird decides to chime in. Good, no ass bitch, right?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
And how did you respond to Bird saying, good, no ass bitch?
I laughed.
Thought that was funny, did you? Trooper Proctor? Thought that was funny?
It was unprofessional of me. That's something I shouldn't have done.
Well, I think we all know it was unprofessional. It was a lot of things. I'm asking you, did you think it was funny?
No, according to my response at the time, apparently.
Then you sent a picture, just to add to it, to pile on, of Miss Reed being arrested, correct? Are you there, Trooper Proctor?
Yes.
The date is now February 2nd, 2022. And a person by the name of Doc writes, is that chick a smoke? Correct?
Correct.
Who's the chick?
Miss Reed.
And you write, E-H, right?
Yes.
And then you write nutbag, as Chief would say, correct?
Correct.
Who's Chief?
A friend of mine.
And then you write what?
She's got a leaky balloon knot.
Trooper Proctor, explain to the jurors what a balloon knot is.
Your, essentially, I guess your rectum area.
Your anus?
Yes.
That's what you were referring to about Miss Reed?
Yes.
And you were making fun of her because you believed at that time that it leaked? That's how you were treating Miss Reed? Yes or no?
Yes.
And then you followed that up just to make sure you cleared up any mistake about what you meant with leaks poo, correct?
Objection.
All right, so I'm going to strike that. You could get this in, but do it the right way, Mr. Jackson.
You followed that up with the phrase leaks poo, didn't you?
I did.
Again, another reference to Miss Reed's medical issues and medical conditions, correct?
Correct.
Specifically focused on her anus, correct?
In reference, yes.
Were you aware at the time that you wrote this that Miss Reed had suffered a colectomy surgery, very serious surgery?
I was not, sir, no.
Were you aware that she had had 10 surgeries in 18 months, several years prior? 10.
I was not aware of that.
Were you aware that she had serious medical issues, gastrointestinal medical issues that she suffered with, she was a victim of for years? Did you know that?
Objection.
Sustained.
But you decided that you were going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy as a balloon knot.
Objection.
Sustained.
At this point, Trooper Proctor, Miss Reed was just reduced to a punchline to you, wasn't she?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, you weren't done yet. This chat doesn't end yet, does it?
No, sir.
Let's skip to 2543. On the same date, February 2nd, 2022, about 4:15 p.m., a person by the name of Whitey wrote, "What are you guzzling on?" Correct?
Yes.
And you wrote, "Nothing," writing a warrant. Is that right?
Correct.
Whitey then shares some sort of a video, correct?
Yes.
You remember that video being of the 1980s band Warrant?
I don't recall the video he sent.
0095 laughed and then wrote, "Wait, why does her asshole leak?" Correct?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
And then what did Doc write in response to that?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection sustained. I'll see it. Sidebar, take that down, please.
No, police is square line. What is your emergency?
Yes, I need someone to come to 34 Fairview Road in Canton, Mass. There's a man passed out in the snow. I think he's dead. We need, you gotta get here ASAP, okay?
I'm going to transcend line. I'm going to transfer to Canton.
Okay. I know. Where are the blankets? I don't see blankets, Kerry.
911, what's your emergency?
Yes, I need someone to come immediately to 34 Fairview.
Doctor, without getting to the specifics of the words used in the following, in the next exchange that you're looking at, it's fair to say that your high school buddies then continue to discuss Miss Reed's medical issues, correct?
Objection.
That's sustained. Come on, Mr. Jackson. That isn't what you said you'd ask. Go ahead and ask the question you said you'd ask.
Was there a continued discussion that finished on this subject matter?
Yes.
Do you believe that integrity means being honest and having strong moral principles?
I believe that's part of it as well.
Do you stand by that testimony that you were showing strong moral principles in this investigation, sir?
In the investigation part, absolutely. Through these text messages, absolutely not. They were juvenile and regrettable.
The defense will not be allowed to call any experts like Ed because Judge Bev made a ruling that they can only cross-examine the prosecution's experts. Correct, Ed?
Yes.
Yeah.
The jury should all know crime scene investigations. You know, Bev must think you can learn how to do my job by sitting down and watching a few CSI episodes. I'm the unknown crime scene investigator from Stop and Shop.
Are you the unknown crime scene investigator from Stop and Shop? The bag is upside down, Mr. Unknown Detective. What do you use that Stop and Shop bag for, by any chance? I know that it's not indicative of the NYPD crime scene unit, but...
It's for groceries.
Holy shiitake mushrooms, Ed. You know, just when I think you've done enough with wearing the balaclava ski mask in the Brian Kohlberger case and holding up the K-bar knife, you come in with the unknown comic.
I'm the unknown crime scene investigator from Stop and Shop. I got my crime scene certification from the produce section.
Is there a reason that you want to try to distance yourself from naming Michael Proctor as the lead investigator in the case? Is there some reason?
I am not trying to distance myself. All I'm saying is the term that I use is the case officer. We're simply case managers. There's no leading investigation in any direction.
So, in your mind, Well, let me ask you this. He's a case officer, another word for that. Synonym would be an investigator, right? He's a detective, an investigator, correct?
He is a detective, yes.
And he was the one who was assigned by the Massachusetts State Police because of his on-call status that night, or that morning, January 29, 2022, he was assigned to the case, correct?
Michael,
Yes or no? Assigned to the case. That's all I'm asking.
well, you said a lot before that, so
I said he was assigned to the case. What I said before that was January 29th, 2022. He was assigned by the Massachusetts State Police as the case officer for this case. Right?
no.
Who was?
He was assigned to be on call a month prior. Just because he was on call, he was assigned the case as a result. He was not assigned the case right there and then, because his assignment began much earlier in the day.
Sergeant, we can do this all day, I suppose. He was on call.
He was.
January 29th, correct?
He was.
Because he was on call, any case that happened to come in would be assigned to whom?
To the on-call trooper that's on the schedule.
Which was whom?
It was Michael Proctor.
I have never, ever seen a defense call the lead investigator, who usually sits at the prosecution table, as one of their witnesses. Randolph, how does that look different? Is the scope different? Does the cross become different? Is he a hostile witness? Paint me a picture of how this is going to look.
It changes the dynamic of the questioning, because remember, when you're asking questions on cross, you get to ask those leading questions. So the questions that you want answered yes or no, or you get to frame them exactly the way you want to ask them and answer them. When you call them as a direct witness, you're asking open-ended questions, which allows theoretically Proctor to answer any way he gets to want to answer those questions. So it's not ideal for the defense. And I agree with you, Matt. I can't remember a long time since I've seen the defense have to call a lead investigator or somebody who presumably should have been in the state's case.
Guys, I think it's not, this is probably the first time I've ever heard of a witness who should be from the state who would potentially testify for the defense. However, look, this case is very unlike most cases anybody has ever seen. So there's probably a lot of firsts that have already been involved with this type of thing. They know what they're going to have to ask. They probably have a good idea of what Proctor is going to say in his response. And they're going to have questions in response to Proctor's response. So I think they're going to have no choice. They're going to have to call him. And it's going to be fireworks when they do.
When you say they're juvenile and regrettable, sounds like you're almost apologizing to the jury for your conduct. Is that what you're doing?
For those text objection.
Sustained.
Trooper Proctor, have you ever apologized to Miss Reed?
Objection.
Sustained.
As the lead investigator in this case, you were tasked with the responsibility of making sure that the investigation remained free of any conflicts of interest. That's part of your job, correct?
Correct.
Throughout the pendency of this investigation and this case, you've denied having any conflict of interest in this case. Isn't that right?
Correct.
In fact, a couple of months ago in February of 2024, you testified in a different proceeding. Is that right?
Yes.
And you testified under oath in that proceeding on February 1st that you did not know any members of the Albert family or McCabe family, correct? Let me just ask you this. Do you believe that Michael Proctor, his involvement in this case, tainted the investigation?
No.
Not at all.
The investigation was done with honor, integrity, and all the evidence pointed in one direction only.
Honor and integrity by Michael Proctor?
Was that a question? I'm sorry.
Sure is. Everything I say is a question. Honor and integrity by Michael Proctor, Sergeant? Okay.
Sustained to the comment. Go ahead and ask it again, Mr.
I'll ask it again. You said honor and integrity. Honor and integrity by Michael Proctor? Objection.
I'll allow it.
The investigation was conducted with honor and integrity, and all the evidence pointed in one direction and one direction only.
So, Sergeant Buchanan, you don't want to answer my question, correct?
I will answer your question, absolutely.
Do you think this case was handled with honor and integrity by Michael Proctor, Sergeant?
The investigation was handled with integrity by Michael Proctor.
The sergeant is nowhere in any of this video. So where's the sergeant?
He's MIA.
Yeah. So but he testified after this that he was never Proctor was never alone. But
Did you see any volitional movement by Mr. Proctor as the tow truck driver moved past him?
Yes, it appears if that is his head, it shifted weight.
Okay. Let's go ahead and play it forward. Stop.
Now, did you see that?
Person that appeared to morph toward the back of the vehicle. Right there.
Watch this guy appear out of nowhere.
There with the footage, so it could possibly be used to describe that what took place.
Can you recognize that person?
And it just materializes in the image out of nowhere. You know, at first glance, it looks to me like this has been manipulated.
What does it appear that Mr. Proctor does at this point in the video?
He's walking.
Okay. Do you see anything in his hand?
I cannot tell from the video, but he might be carrying something.
Remember we looked previously at a portfolio, black portfolio. Does it appear that he may have a black portfolio in his hand?
That is very likely, but I don't know exactly what he's carrying.
Okay. Which area is Michael Proctor walking to? The left rear or the right rear in this?
Now, also, it said that the chief of police was out sick at this time. So why was he at the station? Remember, this chief drove by the scene, and while he was driving by the scene, found a piece of the lens.
And remember, the chief of detectives didn't even come out of his house, but he gave him
but that's
and a stop.
So here's what Proctor is holding, a portfolio like this, where you can open it up and it has your pads and you can put all your stuff in here. What else could you put in here? And then take your zipper and zip it up. Broken taillight pieces, maybe?
Pieces of taillight, yeah.
Okay.